Hi everyone, welcome back to this week's SEL Spotlight. This is Mrs. Gonzalez, and this week we continue our exploration of everything that's part of the decision-making process. Today we're looking at identifying options in that process. I want you to look at these three words that you see on the screen. What do these words have in common? Pause and think about what these words have in common. Well, surely you figured out that these all are synonyms, meaning that they basically all mean the same thing. And that is opportunities to pick what is wanted. You're actually going to be looking at how important it is to determine and evaluate all options when you're making a decision. And I want you to listen to this story that I'm going to share with you and focus on these words here: options, choices, and alternatives. Mike is at his father's house today. He discovers that he has left his hair gel at his mother's house. He's upset with himself for forgetting it since he plans to go to the community play tonight and doesn't want to go with bad hair. He fumes about it for a while and finally decides he's not going to go to that play. So why was Mike upset? What did Mike decide to do and why? What choices did Mike think that he had? Would you agree that he thought he had only two choices: to go to the play with bad hair or stay home? What else could Mike have done? I'm sure you can think of quite a few, but I'm going to throw some out myself. He could have borrowed some gel from someone at home, from a friend, from a neighbor. He could have asked his father to drive him to the store to buy some gel. He could have asked his mother if she could bring the gel to him. If his mother lived nearby, he could have gone back to her house and picked up the gel. This story of Mike actually reminds me with some of our scholars that say, well, my computer is not working, so I can't do any of my schoolwork. That always, kind of gets to me because it really, well, it saddens me too, because I'm not sure if it's just a scholar that's thinking, well, I only have two choices: my computer works and I can do work, or my computer doesn't work and I can't do work. There are plenty of other options to access the computer and the internet. There's the library, there's a neighbor, there's a friend, there's a family member. Also reaching out to our tech support to ensure that that computer gets fixed if it's something that we loaned. So there's so many other options, but it's so easy to just fall back on, well, my computer works and I can work, or my computer doesn't work and I can't do work, right? So I ask you, can you relate to or empathize with Mike? Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation where perhaps things aren't going the way you want them to or intended it to, and then you got upset with yourself or the situation, and then you really just limited your options and kind of give up? Looking at Mike's situation from the outside, we know that Mike had way more choices than he thought. And his biggest mistake was actually not taking the time to consider all of the options before he made his decisions to stay home. So if Mike had given his situation a little bit more thought, he may have made a different decision, probably a funner one, right? So with these options, choices, alternatives, it actually gives you that personal power. So each time that you think of and review all your options before making an important decision, that personal power is being exercised. And this kind of goes back to personal power was one of the topics that we discussed a few weeks back in our SEL Spotlight. So if you haven't watched it, I invite you to look for that video and watch that. But I do want to share another scenario with you to illustrate how decisions are made and the impact certain decisions can have. Listen carefully, okay? It's a scenario with Lara and Alec. Lara and Alec are friends, and they're working on a project together. They get into a fight because Lara thinks that she's doing all the work. Lara criticizes Alec, and they stop speaking to each other. The project is finished at the end of the day, but the friendship is also finished. The friendship is broken. So take a moment to think about that scenario. Take it in for a bit. Who made the decision in that story? What was the decision that was made? Did you notice that Lara made a decision to criticize Alec? Some of you may argue that Alec made the decision not to help on the project, but the scenario that I shared with you only stated that Lara thinks she's doing all the work. But we don't really know for sure if Alec is not helping or doing his fair share. What was the consequence or the result of that decision that Lara made? What was the end result? The friendship was broken, right? So in a few moments, I want to ask you to pause the video, but I want to tell you, I want you to think about the other options that Lara could have considered that wouldn't have resulted in her losing a friend. Brainstorm as many other possibilities. And once you have brainstormed all the other possible options for Lara, I want you to write down some or all of your brainstormed ideas in the video comments below. So go ahead and brainstorm all the other options that won't result in Lara losing her friend, and write down your ideas in the video comments below. Go ahead and pause now. Thank you to all the wonderful brainstorming, for all the wonderful brainstorming and all the wonderful video comments. Hopefully you realize that there is no right or wrong answer. We're just trying to showcase all the other possibilities that exist, and I do invite you to pick a favorite one or one that you like best from the video comments if you didn't have a chance to write down some of your own. But I do want to point out one thing. In both scenarios, the one with Mike and the other one that we just saw with Lara, some of the options may have come quickly and easily to you. And I do want to caution you to avoid making decisions based on only the obvious options, because usually there are other options that are available that may give you better results. You'll always want to take a minute or two to think beyond the obvious that's in front of you before making that decision, okay? If you simply can't think of any options, talk to someone. Sometimes it really helps to get information or another point of view, and I can tell you I personally do it all the time. So it really does help to talk to someone and sometimes even just bounce off ideas or thoughts that you're having. All right, so we are coming to a close on our spotlight, but before I leave you, I want to make sure you'll know what to do next time, or you know the importance of looking at your options when you're faced with that need to make a decision. Okay, so I want to leave you with some final points here. Ultimately, the decisions are always yours to make, and I think this is something that a point in our final points that has come up in the past, and it comes back up to resurface because this is very true. They are your decisions. You're going to be the one living with the consequences, right? So you want to think about all your options, make your decisions wisely. Before making decisions, especially the important ones, take that time to think of as many options as possible. And if it helps, write them down. If it helps to get some additional help or information, speak up and ask for help. Ask for a trusted person to give you their opinion about your thoughts and all the different options that you're looking and making that decision. Alrighty, so I do want to thank you for joining us once more. I hope that today's spotlight brings lots of value to your life. This is Mrs. Gonzalez